who's still available? Because like we said, you have to put your name in the portal by the end of the day today. You don't have to commit. So we essentially have the group of players who are on the market, and now we're going to talk about the best available. But one of the real interesting trends here is I think 4 of the best players still available have also declared for the NBA draft. So we talked about Yaxel, who is committed to Michigan, but a lot of the guys who declared for the NBA draft have also put their name in the portal and not made decisions yet. Now, I want to share a story before I do this. So NCAA tournament, Hunter Dickinson, Kansas center, also doubled as a CBS Sports HQ anchor. He and I were in studio together a number of times over March Madness. And he said on air, and I thought it was such a good point, he says, all the players talk, all the agents, understand the market norms now. And if you declare for the NBA draft, you better put your name in the transfer portal, because if not, you have no negotiation leverage if you decide to come back to college basketball. It's just between you and the school you were already at. And maybe if they already allocated their funds, you're not going to get as much money as you think. So sometimes while these players are exploring the NBA draft, they are putting their name in the portal just to maximize their options should they decide to come back to college basketball. I share this story because that context is relevant for 4 of the 4 best players that are still on the board here. I'm going to ask you to go first. PJ Haggerty from Memphis, you've got him number 2 right now in the 24/7 Sports portal rankings.
Yeah, this was an interesting debate that we had at number 1 because Yaxel Lendeborg and PJ Haggerty famously played in the same conference. Who was player of the year in that league? PJ Haggerty. Who's number 1 in our transfer portal rankings? Yaxel Lendeborg. So it's a little bit of a fight that we had, but I think that Haggerty, the scoring in transition, I think he's a plug-and-play 18 points a game next year, regardless of where he plays. He was 21 points a game 2 years ago. He was 21 points a game last year. Transfer up even more. I think he's got a chance to be one of the leading scorers in that respective league. He can really, really get to the free throw line. Awesome in transition. Added more of a three-point threat to his game. He's commanding a huge market, and the numbers are $4 million, right? Like that you could potentially, he wants right now in the open market in free agency, and that kind of limits it, right? Like it's like, okay, who's open, who has an open spot, and who has open, cap space for that? So I would look at a team like Ole Miss. I also don't think that going back to Memphis is completely off the table. That feels like a spot that could potentially be in play. Obviously the NBA draft is as well, and like we said earlier, May 28th is the deadline for those guys that entered the NBA draft to withdraw and maintain their NCAA eligibility. I would expect PJ Haggerty to play college basketball next year, but I do not know where it's going to be yet.
Here's my question about PJ Haggerty. Can he defend? Because if you're getting paid $4 million, you better be able to impact the game on both ends of the floor and not be a negative on the defensive end. And then how does he adapt if he is not the primary option offensively? Because this is a guy who's now played at 3 schools in 3 years. He's averaged over 21 points per game now, 2 consecutive years, 2 different schools. We know he can score. We know he made a significant jump with his 3-point shooting last year. I thought that was critical. What we don't know is if he can defend, and what we don't know is how he will react to having less volume and usage if he goes somewhere where maybe he's not option 1A.
Yeah, and also the other question is like, how good of a team are we if PJ Haggerty's our best player? Like Memphis, he was their best player this year, and they were a 5 seed in the NCAA tournament, had a great year. But, like, they also had great supporting pieces. Like, Tyrese Hunter was a terrific supporting piece. Dane Danger was awesome. Colby Rogers, a great transfer portal ad out of Wichita State, a great year. Musa Cisse, like, that was a good team. It wasn't just PJ Haggerty put him on your back. So if you're, this is kind of where it goes for some of these smart teams are like, all right, if we're investing $4 million to get PJ Haggerty on our campus, like, what does that mean for our salary cap? What does that mean, like, for the amount that we're able to add to our team? Like, what does our team look like if he's our best player? And it's an onward discussion there. I do think, though, that, like, there's not a lot of bust potential with PJ Haggerty, which is a real factor because we've seen some big busts in the last transfer portal classes just because his playmaking. He's a really, really good playmaker. And when you add that to the shooting as well and the scoring package that he has, I feel like that gives him a really high floor offensively. It's hard to find teams that make a lot of sense for him with the money that he's commanding right now and with the role that he wants, especially when a lot of teams are trying to load up.
One guy that we know will not be going back is R.J. Luis, the reigning Big East Player of the Year, who averaged 18.7 rebounds and 2 assists per game last year for St. John's, but was, of course, sent to the bench down the stretch of that NCAA tournament game against Arkansas. He has put his name in the portal. He has declared for the NBA draft. Right at the moment, it seems like he is focused on the NBA draft. But if he doesn't get the feedback he wants, like most players in this market, I think he's going to find that he's going to get a better dollar amount in college basketball next season. So it's going to be very interesting. I think he's in a scenario where you get that first-round promise. In the NBA draft, a first-round promise comes with it a promise of a multi-year guaranteed contract. So obviously, even if the one-year salary from college basketball can be higher, because let's face it, if you project as a late first-round pick, right now that's just above $2 million, you're probably getting more to play in college basketball next season. But it is the promise of the additional years and that guaranteed money that could be the difference maker. My thing with RJ is obviously he's a little bit of a throwback. He puts a ton of pressure on the rim. He's great in transition, really hunts the rim even in the half court. Throwback in terms of the way he loves the mid-range game. I mean, we don't see guys curl for mid-range jumpers anymore, but you do with him. The three-point shot is a wild card, and the defense, while he's talented, while he's big, physical, has movement skills, the defense tends to come in correlation to the offense. I think Rick Pitino kind of alluded to that when he continued to be questioned about pulling him in that Arkansas game. What's your take on Luis and whether or not we'll see him in college basketball next season?
Yeah, we haven't really heard a lot of buzz with different teams with him, and I think that just makes me think he wants to be a pro. And Rick Pitino has said that, and Luis has said that, so I just feel like that's probably the most likely scenario, because he plays so hard, like so hard, and I think that ability that he shows as as an elite role player could potentially, is he a Josh Hart archetype type of deal, like for NBA teams? Could they look at him as that type of guy, because he's so big, he can play make a little bit, he can guard multiple positions, he's going to be awesome in transition. So that's like the path for him in the NBA. I think that's probably the most likely. If you're putting a cheeseburger to my head right now, that would be where I think he plays next year.
Did you say cheeseburger?
We did.
Could we get cheeseburgers? No, we can't stop talking. All right, let's keep it going. Darrion Williams, Texas Tech, number 6 on the board. I love this guy.
Love him.
Like one of the smartest basketball players in all of college basketball. But this is your guy. Got me on the ISO here, but this is Trotter's guy. I love the versatility. I love the fact that he can play multiple spots on the floor. I thought he unlocked that playbook because you could do so many different things with him. You could play him in the post. You could give him the ball, let him come off ball screen, so you can invert a lot of your different actions. He was huge. Tell me your take on Darrion.
Well, I love him like a son, or like a brother. I think he is an unbelievable.
I think he's older than it's
we're
close.
the same.
Yeah.
We're probably close to the same age. So he's like a little brother. I think he's unbelievable. I think he's a walking 15-5-5 next year, regardless of where he plays. He can play on the ball. He can play off the ball. He can be an awesome, post-up hub. Those mid-post ISOs where he can get over his left shoulder are just, it's money in the bank. The playmaking is huge. Defensively, he just adds a lot of pieces. So I think he's a guy that will play college basketball next year. Again, commanding a huge number. And you're trying to now look. It's like, all right, which teams have openings at the 4 that have the type of money that could get Darrion Williams? Kansas is a big name to watch there in that one. They have a huge hole at the 4. The ability to play next to Flory Badunga and play next to Darren Peterson and play next to some of the guys they've added in the portal, like a
Tyron Stokes said he's not going to college next year, so they've got resources. I'm just saying. Yeah,
the cap space makes sense there, and Darrion Williams, that would be another Texas Tech guy to transfer to Kansas after we saw Kevin McCullough do a similar thing a couple years ago. BYU would be another team that you kind of have to bring up with the type of money they have and the opening that they could potentially have at the 4.
You think they can get another one?
BYU has unlimited money, in my opinion, it feels like.
Wow.
So I wouldn't say that BYU would be the team I'd pick right now. I think Kansas is certainly the number 1 team to watch right there, but Darrion Williams is a complete stud, and he's going to be one of the best players in college basketball next season. Personally, selfishly, if I was in charge of the rankings alone, it'd be really hard for me not to have him number 1. He is unbelievable.
Ooh, Ebos, Travis. You hear that? He just threw some shade. We'll talk about it later. Real quick plug for me, Jamir Watkins. Just want to talk about him. Leaving Florida State. Second team All-ACC last year. 18-plus points, 6 rebounds, 2-plus assists, 1+ steal per game. But it was the efficiencies that weren't great. Negative assist-to-turnover ratio, just 32% from the three-point line. But I will say this. I think that three-point shooting number is misleading. When you look at his open catch-and-shoot threes, it was vastly higher, about 39%. And he was top 15 in the country in fouls drawn. So doesn't always do a great job of weaponizing his athleticism because he needs to improve his handle, but he's so physical, he can get himself to the free throw line. If Jamir Watkins gets to an up-tempo program, he is going to be a game changer in college basketball next season, but he too is one of those players that is both in the portal and has declared for the NBA draft, so we will see what level we see him at next season.